The Big Brother Canada 4 season has come to a close, but that means it's not the end of the Reality TV RHAPpy Hour. So here we go. We're going to do a post-game interview for you guys today. I've been waiting to have something scheduled for a little while, so here it is. We're talking to our first house guest from BBCan 4. It's none other than the great Joel Lefevre, ladies and gentlemen. Joel, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. I was a huge Joel believer all season, so it's fun to finally get to I know we talked on the phone last week, but it's nice to chat face-to-face, if you will, although we're not really face-to-face, but you know what I mean. So thank you for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. I know this is a really crazy time for you, just getting out of the house and trying to get adjusted to the real world, but I think this will be a lot of fun.
I agree. I'm looking forward to it. Love the fact that I can chat with somebody who loves Big Brother just as much as I do.
Yeah, it should be really fun, man. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if this is from you, Joel, or from Taryn. So, guys, could you just turn down your headphones a little bit?
Okay.
Volume, that would be great. Just so that we can, I'll edit this part out of the audio. But that's what you guys get for watching us live on YouTube. You get to see all of this, this happening live. You know, you'll get to see all the mistakes and all the errors that go into the live video broadcast of the show. So that should be pretty entertaining. I can't forget to mention that we are also joined by my good buddy Taryn Armstrong. He's here because Alex Kidwell is still dealing with his Fisher-Price internet. So, Taryn, how are you?
Well, I'm pretty sure the internet is just an excuse. I'm pretty sure he's just lip syncing Carly Rae, and that's why he's so busy. He couldn't make the podcast. Like, let's not wipe over the whole thing with the internet issue.
Okay. Well, we'll be honest. Yes, Alex is practicing his Carly Rae Jepsen lip syncing. So he couldn't handle being on the same podcast as Joel unless he was better than Joel at that. He's not quite at that stage yet. So he's training. He'll be back maybe, Big Brother Canada 5, Joel and Alex will be on the same podcast together, and it'll go nice and smoothly. Okay, we're live on a Google Hangout in case you guys are listening to this in the audio, but for those of you watching us live, we're here taking your questions today. So if you have a question for Joel, please feel free to send them in. Two ways you can get those in. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video. You can also tweet me. I'm at Jordan Parhar. Use the hashtag RHAPpy Hour, and we'll get into those later on in the show. We're also monitoring the chat on robhasawebsite.com. Steve Moses from Big Brother 17, the winner of Big Brother 17, is here with us live, so that's pretty cool. So if you're in the chat, say hi to Steve. But yeah, that's basically how this show is going to work today. We're going to break down Joel's game from start to finish. So this should be a bit of a longer podcast, but I think it'll be really fun because we can get into all of the inner workings of who Joel Lefevre, the Big Brother Canada player, is. We can get through, talk about Joel's game, get inside his head, and try to figure out what exactly was going on at certain points during the season. Taryn, I did not say this to you in the pre-show. I have a lot of questions lined up, so I might try to dominate this a little bit, but if you want to hop in at any point, Taryn, feel free to cut me off because you've got the feeds perspective. I have more of the edited television perspective. That cool?
Yeah, I mean that's perfect for me because I love just jumping in when I can tell people that they're wrong.
Okay, perfect. So there we go. And it's too bad Brent's not here because I feel like it's best when you jump in and tell Brent he's wrong. Yeah. But that's okay. I'll play the Brent role today. Okay, Joel. Well, let's just hop right into this because we got a lot of ground to cover. So I want to go way back. Let's go way back in time. Let's go back to when you first started watching Big Brother. What got you into Big Brother, Joel?
Well, what first got me into Big Brother actually was kind of through Survivor in a way. I've always been a huge Survivor fan from the very beginning, and then I first started watching Big Brother in season 14, and it was a season when Russell Hantz, who I was a huge fan of on Survivor, just the way he played so ruthlessly, and he's a bit of a dick, but a hell of a player and great entertainment value. So I was like, okay, one of Russell's brothers is going to be on it, so there's going to be so much chaos and paranoia in the season. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Obviously, Willie was a complete train wreck from the very beginning, but I started watching it then, and then I became hooked on it just through the strategy aspect and everything that that show involved, and seeing people that I could relate to on that show, people like Ian Terry. I just wanted to catch up and watch all the other Big Brother shows. before that. So I basically binge watched after watching Big Brother 14. I binge watched all the Big Brother seasons up to 14 to the point where I was caught up when Big Brother Canada season 1 came out in 2013. So I took about a year or so and pretty much just binge watched all the Big Brother seasons.
That's
and
amazing,
I've been a
man.
diehard super fan ever since. Yeah.
That is crazy. So did you watch Big Brother 1 as well?
I did, and I'm actually glad that I didn't watch Big Brother from the very beginning, because Big Brother 1 wasn't really all that interesting. There was nothing about it really other than it was like Josh is horny all the time and wants to get with all the girls, and like Will just like hates everybody and didn't even want to be there. And there's this like 50-year-old guy, Chicken George, who just kind of annoying the crap out of people, I felt. I don't know. It wasn't that interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you watched that, especially not at the time that it was airing, but you went back and watched that, goes to show your super fandom, Joel. So I think that's very impressive, my man. So good on you for doing that. Okay, so I did not know that. So Big Brother 14 was when you first got into it. You go and you binge watch everything, and then you get caught up in time for Big Brother Canada 1. So did you apply for the first season of Big Brother Canada?
I did not apply for the first season. I just sort of had some personal issues going on around then. So season 2 was the first season I tried out for. I went to the open calls in Edmonton, was able to get called back for a semifinal audition, and then got called to the finals. Didn't make it that year. Season 3, they called me back again and basically fast-tracked me. They said, okay, are you interested in trying out again? So I tried out again, made it to the finals again. I was on the verge of going on the show, and then some last-minute things forced me to have to drop out from season number 3. So I was actually supposed to be on your season, and then they called me back again for season 4, and everything kind of lined up, and the rest is history.
I mean, just thinking about that is crazy, that you almost were on, and I can relate to you. I mean, I made the finals for season 2. I didn't get on season 2, and then made the finals for 3, obviously got on 3. But it's interesting, if you would have got on 3, if you didn't have to back out. I mean, Taryn, how does that timeline work? If Joel is on Big Brother Canada 3, and I'm on Big Brother Canada 4, how do things change?
I don't know. Who do you think you would have aligned with, Joel, in Big Brother Canada 3?
It's funny because when I first looked at the cast, I was thinking of aligning with a lot of the same people that Jordan was. Like my number one, when I just looked at the cast, I was like, I want somebody who's athletic, but who's also is good socially and stuff. So Zach would have been my number one. Absolutely, I would have gone to him. I don't know if he would have wanted to work with me because I'm a little more socially awkward, but I think Zach would have been somebody I definitely would have wanted to interact with, Kevin as well, and Ashley. So yeah, a lot of the same people that Jordan was working with throughout the game.
Man, that would have been so interesting. Joel in Newport. I think that would have been really cool. I think that would have been fun. I would have liked to have seen. I wish I could. There's some sort of simulator where I could watch that with Joel there on that season instead of me, and then me on 4 instead of Joel. I really would have liked to have seen that play out. That would be really cool. Okay, so you get on season 4, Joel. You're really excited. What is your game plan going into this season? I mean, because this is something you've been close to for a long time. You must have been really excited. I mean, I've been there before, waiting to get your chance and finally getting that chance. So what did you do to prepare before the season started?
What I did to prepare was I did read some books, some strategy books, some books on how to read people, how to be good with people socially, how to make conversations. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People was a big book that I took out and read. So a lot of books about how to just be more socially aware of your surroundings and understanding a little bit better as to when somebody may be telling a lie or exaggerating a story. So things like that.
Okay, yeah. How to Win, and by the way, for anyone listening, How to Win Friends and Influence People, great book, regardless if you want to be on Big Brother or you just want to get better at life. I mean, just read the book. It's really good, by Dale Carnegie. And did you read the 48 Laws of Power, Joel?
I did not read the 48 Laws of Power. I read another book called How to Talk to Anyone, which basically outlines 92 different strategies and how to find what people hold near and dear and maybe use that to your advantage. That was more in a business standpoint, but I thought I could use that in the game to use that to my advantage.
Okay, cool. Let's jump into your game then. Night one, Joel, week one. You enter the house the first night. How are you feeling in terms of where you stand with all the house guests? Is there anybody who's really standing out to you? Is there in a good way or a bad way? Like, what's your thought process that first night, or is it just like were you just so overwhelmed by just the entire thing?
Yeah, first night was pretty overwhelming and pretty nerve-wracking. Finally, getting in the house and being like, "All right, now the game's underway." I mean, the game started for me a while before that when I was in the whole casting process. But right there, when you're in the house with everybody, it's real and it's literally game on. So it was very overwhelming, but I was very, very lucky to be able to get a nice twist my way in that first head of household competition. That helped me, I think, integrate better into that group. But I was definitely nervous because I knew I was being painted as sort of the smart, quirky person right away, and I didn't know if anybody there was going to be huge super fans like in your season. So if that was the case, then it was fresh off a Steve Moses win. So I was definitely very, very fearful going in that people were just, by my appearance, going to look at me as a Steve Moses, as an Ian Terry, and be like, all right, maybe this guy is not the best competitor out there necessarily, the strongest person, but Steve and Ian won, so just on that alone, maybe we should target him early.
Were you surprised that there were so few, the number of fans going into the season, it was just so low? Because, I mean, on paper, I mean, from that first night, it was you and Mitch for us at home, and for everybody else, it was just kind of like, okay, there's not really any other fans this season, which was such a sharp contrast from season 3, where they were basically the entire house they were all super fans.
Yeah, it was weird. I think it benefited people like myself and Mitch, because I think people early on, when me and Mitch started just like talking about the game night 1, night 2 and stuff, people saw us as like, okay, these people know the game, so people came to us and wanted to talk to us very early on in the game, so it worked to our benefit. But yeah, you don't usually see just like maybe 1 or 2 people that are legitimate fans and like know the show inside and out. So it was different.
And you mentioned that the HOH twist for that first HOH, where you got that safety right off the bat. Do you think that if you didn't get that safety, Joel, that you would have been on the block for in the first week?
I think potentially I could have been. I think people saw me popping that champagne cork very awkwardly. It actually took me about like 5-10 minutes or so to get the stupid thing off. So I think if people were super fans of the show, they would have been like, okay, this is maybe somebody who's an easy vote off just because of his appearance and how awkward he is around people. So I definitely felt like, depending on who was the head of household, if it was Shari, I think for sure I would have gone on the block that week. If it was a Kelsey or Raul or one of them, I think I potentially could have been put up on the block too, because I think before we even introduced who we are and things like that, Kelsey like out loud was just like, "Oh, Joel, you seem like the smart, schemy one in the bunch." So like I think I might have potentially been a target for her as well. Levita, I had a really good thing with Levita, so if things would have panned out the way they were, I think I would have been okay with Levita, but yeah, with a bunch of people, I probably would have been put up. I don't know if I would have gone home or not, but I think it might have been an easy thing for a lot of people at that point to look at me and be like, all right, he's the easy vote off maybe.
Okay, and then from the first episode, we didn't really see that first week. We didn't really see anything, Joel. Like, we saw the first night, we saw the first HOH, we saw the veto competition, and that was pretty much it. And then we had the champagne we saw, yes, but we didn't really get to see much of the inner workings that first week. So are there any good stories or anything crazy that happened that first week that just didn't make the edited show, or were there any, like, can you talk about Levita's HOH a little bit as well, just because we didn't really get to see that, but a lot of people on feeds afterwards, Taryn, correct me if I'm wrong, were saying that Levita was kind of having a little bit of HOH-itis that first week.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, there wasn't that much going on from my perspective in terms of alliances and strategizing until the head of household competition. And then after that head of household competition, Ramsey pulled me aside and wanted to have a final two deal with me in the pantry, and then he'd promptly made a final two deal with every single person else, every other person there, and I think probably gave the exact same story about like, hey, we would be totally unsuspecting if we could work together, and then said the exact same thing to somebody else. So that was for me the first person that came up to me and wanted to talk strategy, wanted to talk game. I think it's around that time when Kelsey, Raul, and Jared somewhere around the first week wanted to talk about formed the Third Wheel Alliance, and then Dallas, Maddie, and Ramsey branched off somewhere at that point as well, and clearly Shari and Levita were together. And then it was actually like I think a day or two after Ramsey wanted to make a final two deal with me after he'd made a final two deal with everybody else was when Cassandra talked game to me and wanted to make a final two deal with me as well, called Beauty and the Brains. So that was, from my perspective, that was everything that was going on when people were talking to me. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So that happened. So the Cassandra and you alliance was like from very, very early on. So that's interesting. I did not realize it was that early on in the game. Taryn, anything you want to ask Joel before we jump? We just conclude week one.
Well, the show kind of showed us that Kelsey was flirting with the guys a lot. And the brothers ultimately, with Mitch, kind of decided that they wanted to keep Kelsey in the game because they felt that she was a bigger target. Was there anything more to that decision? Like, were you involved in any way? Like, what was your perspective on that vote?
My perspective on that vote was I was the middle person, like I was throughout the entire game for the most part. So for me, I formed a very, very close bond early on with Mitch. I had a couple people who I didn't really trust, but people like Ramsey came to me and wanted to form a final two. I said yes in that moment because I just what I wanted to say to cover my bases. Aside from that, it didn't really matter to me either way. I was forming a very close thing with Levita, but I knew that Jared, from my perspective, was more of the kingpin that flipped things around because it was Paige staying until about day 4 or day 5 of that house, and then I've seen the first 2 episodes, and it seems like it has Phil painted more as like the kingpin who flipped things around. But from the way I saw it, it was more Jared just going to work and getting everybody to flip to keep Kelsey in the house.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed, was that it was Jared. I never expected that Phil was the kingpin once we saw the feeds come on and we actually saw what he was doing. But it's okay.
But whatever. Yeah, let him have it.
Hey, he won the show. Okay, I mean, who cares? It doesn't matter. He did. You know, he won the show. It's fine. Good for Nick and Phil. Okay. Let's jump to week 2. So, end of week 1, Nick and Phil win the veto. If they don't use it, Paige goes home. There is a bit of a split vote, so there is some drama, I guess, over that. But before the drama can really unfold, the wild card twist is announced, or I guess I don't know if we want to call it. Basically they were calling all the twists this season wild cards. So we'll just call this the first wild card twist. But initially, this was just being branded as the wild card twist, in which all the internationals could be coming into the house. We see Nikki Graham and Tim Dormer enter the BBCan Grand, Joel. First off, had you seen the rumors before the season had started that this was going to be a thing, or no?
I had discussions with Phil because Phil was sort of a casual fan of the show and was a fan of Chilltown, Will, and Mike Boogie and stuff. And Phil had mentioned that he had heard, I believe, on Twitter that maybe Mike Boogie could be coming in. So he was thinking it might be sort of similar to like season 14 where it could be some sort of coaches coming in. We didn't think necessarily it'd be Big Brother Canada people, but we thought maybe it could be coaches. Or maybe Mike Boogie needed some money for one reason or another. I don't know.
Okay, so he did. So he had Mike Boogie because that also, I think, like right before you guys went in, that's what the rumor was that Mike
Okay.
Boogie was going in as a coach. I don't know if anyone remembers from the preseason, if anyone was following any of that stuff, but I do remember that,
Yeah,
and
and
that
you
was the
may have
rumor. But
been you may have been part of spreading that rumor, Jordan.
I may have been accidentally part of spreading that rumor. That's right. I mentioned it on a podcast and stuff like that, but I also was me being me, pretending like I was. Anyway, it's a long story, but if you were there at the time, I did a little bit of trolling and was like, yeah, Mike Boogie, he's gonna be back, guys, and I was like, I know. After reading that tweet, but no, I really obviously it was a joke based on what actually happened. So you see these guys come in, Nikki and Tim. For me, I didn't know who Nikki and Tim were before this season until they had announced this twist because I only watch Big Brother North America. I mean, I had heard I had heard a little bit about Tim before, but because I know Arlie Shaban is a big fan of his, but I honestly had no idea who these two were. So did you know, Joel, when you saw Nikki and Tim, had you seen these guys before? Had you heard about them at all?
I had not heard about them. I'm like you, I've only seen the BBUS and the Big Brother Canada stuff. So I was very surprised, but also very thankful that Jace wasn't going to the house because I knew the type of game that Jace played his first couple of years. He looks considerably different than when he played All Stars. So Jace is the type of person I definitely did not want to work with.
Well, Joel, I don't know if you've seen Jace's interviews from before the season, but he said if he got in, his campaign to Canada was that he was going to be a phoenix on Quaaludes in the house. So interpret that as you will. How do you think, like, just hypothetically, if Jace is in there, Joel, how does your game change?
If Jace is in there, Jace was the only one out of the potential four that knew the concept of Big Brother US and Big Brother Canada. And Tim obviously studied and had watched our show before, but Jace has been in the trenches and had been on the same concept essentially 2 times. So Jace knew exactly how to go in there. It's one thing to be watching it and learning from that. It's another thing to be in there and to learn from good things that you did and mistakes that you made. So Jace would have got in there, and I think Jace would have immediately, knowing that not a lot of people there were fans of the show, maybe didn't know who people like Steve and Ian were, he, I think, might have pointed me out right away and been like, hey, these types of guys are the guys that go far in this game. We gotta nip this in the butt right now and get one of these guys out. I don't know if people would have listened to him or not, but I think he probably would have gone after me pretty early.
Well, that's good. That's good that he didn't get in for that reason, because that would have sucked. But at the same time, though, part of me really wanted to see. I really wanted to see Jace play again, just because it would be so weird to see. I don't know, he's 40 now or however old he is, but just to see like old man Jace in the house, like it would have just been, it would have kind of been like if Greg kind of went back in the house this season. That's what I would have liked to see. That would have been a fun thing. But regardless, different podcast for a different day. Joel, let's talk about this week then. Nothing too crazy going on this week. Jared wins HOH in classic Big Brother
that
fashion.
by the way.
What's that?
I said I don't think it showed it on the show, but I actually, the entire time I was in the last round of that competition, I knew right away from that competition that it was going to be one of those elimination ones. So I was like, I'm not even going to try to hit my buzzer on this entire thing. And it just so happened that I was like down to me and Jared, and I was like, okay, Jared, just for God's sakes, get the right answer on this one because I'm not in any trouble right now. I've just voted his way in the last one, so I just wanted him to have that, to win that comp.
Yeah.
So I didn't even try to hit the buzzer on that one.
I remember you talking to Mitch about that that week because I think he also threw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good move up by you guys. No need to win that thing, especially after that first vote flip. in week 1, which I thought was really cool. Pretty rare you see that early on in Big Brother. So that happens. You don't win the HOH. Jared wins the HOH, of course. He puts up Levita and Shari. Christine wins the POV with the famous Mike Bell from the Bridge.
The good Mike Bell.
Yes, Mike Bell, the legend, came during week 2.
I need to know, what were your thoughts when you saw the great Mike Bell? Like, how starstruck were you?
That was pretty unreal. I was like, I wish I'd have gotten my chip picked for that POV, but then again, I wouldn't have been able to play very good because I would have just been like, my jaw would have dropped just looking at Mike Bell. I wouldn't have even bothered to go look at any of the pictures or listen to any of the questions. I'd have just been like, I just want to be next to you, Mike Bell.
And no one would blame you either.
No, definitely not.
Of course not.
Certainly, Alec Beal and I would not have blamed you because but we both agree that Mike Bell is a legend. Okay, so that happens. Christine wins a POV, doesn't use it. Shari is evicted unanimously, pretty much. I know Nikki and Tim kind of had that deal, so Nikki votes against Levita. But other than that, not really too much going on for your game this week, at least in terms of the person going home and that kind of stuff, Joel. But in terms of like the relationships that are going on in the house and stuff like that, the middle was a really strong faction that you guys had early on in the game, and we kind of saw this the first few weeks. Was this kind of when you and Mitch kind of decided, okay, we're gonna ride the middle and do this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's around the time where we were like, okay, there's clearly sides have shown their cards. We knew there was a strong 3 on one side. We knew there was a strong 3 on the other side. We knew that I had really good relationships with Levita, with Shari and them. Mitch was in really good with Raul and Kelsey, so we could both branch off to the different sides and get information that way. But we knew that we were in good with everybody, so that was around the time where we were like, okay, let's keep riding the middle right now and just duck while everybody is throwing punches at each other.
And did you, because you guys were working together on, in terms of that level, but you guys never really seemed to, at least from the show, it didn't seem like you guys had a solid alliance. Was that something that ever came up, and if not, why?
There was actually... It was a little bit further down the road, but the following week, Levita, myself, and Mitch formed an alliance, which I don't believe was shown, called Shut Your Mouth, which was a game that I invented in the house with myself, Levita, and Shari. And so we had formed that during Levita's second HOH reign, and that whole alliance came up when Levita and Kelsey were in the secret suite a couple weeks later, and that's the first time me and Mitch actually like shook on something. We're like, all right, we're in an alliance here with Levita. But me and Mitch were always together and always on the same page for the most part throughout the game until at the midway point. And Mitch was like one of the number one people that I would always talk to. But in terms of alliances, that's the only time we had an official alliance.
All right, so we see Shari go home here. Taryn, anything you want to ask Joel before we move on to week 3?
No, I don't think so. I will comment that at this time I definitely saw you and Mitch as like you guys were in a really great spot there, and I thought you were playing really well at this point. So applause to you.
Kudos.
I will say the OxyClean mission that I had in week number 2, I legitimately didn't know that anybody else was in on that. So there was a point in that OxyClean mission when everybody was looking at me with death stares and doubts, like, all right, you guys just earned yourselves a spot on the block. Like, I legitimately was like, I just did a mission that I was asked to do, and now my game is, like, there was about 5-10 minutes or so where I was like, my game is totally screwed and I didn't even do anything. And then they were all in on it, and then it was all good. But there was like 5-10 minutes where I was like, "Damn it!"
Yeah, that was fun. I really liked that. To see that really showed, how genuine and nice of a guy you are, Joel. Because that, just like how you're just like, oh man, like I don't know what to do, and I feel like I would have reacted in a very similar way. So, well done by you. That was very entertaining. Was the date the next week after that?
The date was a few days later. Yeah, the Marcia the Moose date with Cassandra was, I think, just the same day or the day before Cassandra got put up on the block. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll jump into that shortly here. So week 3, we see Levita win HOH. Levita's really on this roller coaster. I loved watching Levita. She was either out the door or HOH like every single week. So she wins HOH here. So you've got to be feeling pretty good, right?
Oh, I'm feeling really good. I didn't know where Levita's head was at. I know she took a shot at trying to get Kelsey out in the first week, but I knew that she was trying to mend fences at that point and sort of offer up a truce. So I didn't know where she was going to go, but I knew that there was zero chance that she was putting me up or backdooring me.
So she puts up Cassandra and Christine. Did you have any influence really on these noms at all, Joel, or did you kind of just let Levita do her own thing this week?
I just kind of let Levita do her own thing. She doesn't need anybody else to be in her ear and tell her which way to go. Obviously, when somebody is HOH, that's the idea. People want to make sure their name is not thrown out there. But I knew me and Levita were super tight very early on in the game, so I knew I didn't have to worry. My bigger worry was the fact that her and Cassandra were not getting along very well, and I'd made a final 2 with Cassandra, and I wanted to hold true to that for a little while to at least have my bases covered. And I didn't have anything with Christine really. And Christine, in fact, all the time would shut down Game Talk whenever you would mention anything about the game. She would just be like, I don't really care. I don't really care about this. So, so when she put up Cassandra, I didn't know she was going to go that way, but that was the first time where I was like, okay, how do I play this off so I can still be good with Levita and good with Cassandra and make sure Cassandra stays?
So, you mentioned earlier you have the date task with Cassandra this week.
Yeah.
Did Big Brother let you pick whoever you wanted to pick for the date thing?
Big Brother did let me, Marcia the Moose, let me pick.
Yes, Marcia.
Whoever I wanted to pick, and I had a really good thing with Cassandra. I didn't know that it was gonna make Levita and some of the other girls real jealous, which I was like, that's cool. That doesn't happen all the time, but yeah, whatever.
That's so funny. Joel,
me and Cass had a really good thing.
No, it was great. I loved watching that. It was so fun. I remember you mentioning on that episode, you said that you don't really go on a lot of dates in your real life. Since you've been home,
Correct.
Joel, have you been getting lots of calls from the ladies?
I have been getting a few marriage proposals, and I have also gotten a couple of people who wanted, like, I've gotten some people who have their graduations coming up who want me to be their prom dates for the graduations, which, I'm 33 years old and they're like 18 years old. I don't really, I'm flattered and all, but I think they can pick some other people. I think there's other people to choose from. There's plenty of fish.
There are plenty in fish indeed, but good on you, Joel, getting some calls from the ladies. That's good, man. I'm proud of you. Okay, so
thanks, man.
No, anytime, buddy. So week 3 happens. Dallas wins POV. Cassandra and Christine are on the block. Dallas decides not to use it. Christine is evicted by a vote of 6-5. Now, this was an interesting vote. You were kind of forced to kind of be the swing because Tim decided that he was going to vote against Cassandra. Did you know that Tim was going to vote against Cassandra going into that, or was that a bit of a surprise for you?
I knew that Tim was going to vote against Cassandra about half an hour before the eviction. I went into my room just to gather a couple of things before going downstairs into the living room. Christine happened to be in there with Tim, and Christine had asked me which way I'm going because I was avoiding her throughout the entire day, not wanting to tell her which way I was actually going to vote that time. And then I said, I'm sorry, Christine, I'm keeping Cassandra in this house. And she said, but wait a minute, Tim is switching his vote. And Tim was right there. And I said, what do you mean you're switching your vote, Tim? We talked this morning that you were going to vote to keep Cassandra, and it was going to be 7-4. And he said, I'm switching it up, so it's now up to you. And then Levita caught wind of this, so Levita had a long, in-depth discussion with me, maybe about 15, 20 minutes or so before the eviction, like begging on her hands and knees for me to switch my vote to vote off Cassandra, and she is literally like practically on the verge of tears wanting me to vote off Cassandra. So they had called us to the living room on at least 4 or 5 occasions, so I went down there just like completely shaken and thinking to myself like, okay, how do I play this off where I keep Cassandra because Cassandra's an ally of mine at this point, but at the same time, Levita has my back as well. So these two are at each other. How do I keep it so that Levita's not pissed at me for keeping Cassandra in the house?
Yeah, you really were in a pickle there. It's very interesting. I can't really think of off the top of my head any instances where there's one person who's in the middle of two people in the house that really do not get along and do not want to work with each other whatsoever. What was Levita's reaction when you ultimately decided to keep Cassandra in the house? Like, because it seemed like afterwards everything was fine. I mean, mind you, you did win HOH right after, so I guess that kind of helped.
Yes. I think she saw how frazzled I was with how she was coming at me, and just like everybody could see from my face like how shooken up I was from the fact that Levita was so in my face and just like, you have to do this no matter what, you have to do this and stuff. So I think everybody just like throughout the game saw me at that point as somebody who was just like such a good-hearted person or things like that they understood that I was in a tough position. So in some ways, me being that shooken up helped me to still be okay with Levita and still be okay with the people that I didn't vote their way with.
Good on you, man. That's how you get it done. That's how you get it done. Taryn, anything you want to add before we move on to week 4?
Yeah, so I know that when Tim did this to you, he kind of like flipped his vote. You were very suspicious of him moving forward. How long did it take for you to kind of believe him when he was telling you that he wasn't trying to put you on the spot, or do you still even believe that that's true?
I knew very early on in the game from the moment Tim walked in that Tim was a very sharp person, but Tim also was somebody who would very subtly try to push people in front to get people to be like, oh, watch out for this person. This person's a bit of a target. Even right after that first HOH comp when I finished second to Jared, he made a very subtle comment that nobody really picked up on except for me, saying that Joel's really well liked in the house right now, and I was the only one who picked up on it and was like, yeah, please don't say that too loud, buddy. So I knew early on that Tim was somebody who could very subtly play that off, but then he would just laugh it off, and everyone would be like, oh, Tim's just joking around. So with that particular one, when Tim put me on the spot, I had a chat with him the day after when I was head of household, and then been like, hey, like, what was your goal with this whole thing? And he laid it out that he wanted to make sure that both sides were still at each other, and it made a lot of sense to me because the one thing we didn't want when we were the middle group was to have the Dallas side or the Jared side be like, hey guys, let's wise up and team up and go after some of these middle people who a lot of people were perceiving as the floaters at that point. So for him to switch it up like that to ensure that it was going to be 6-5, the Dallas camp would still be hopeful that, okay, we're still really close, and maybe if we win the next head of household, or if somebody who's not from the third wheel doesn't win the head of household, then maybe we can still turn this ship around and get one person over, so we'll still target that other side.
Taryn, anything else, or we want to jump to week 4?
I think we're good.
All right, so let's go to week 4. Joel, you and Mitch actually win this dual HOH competition, and I remember at the time wanting to pull my hair out. I was like, no, Joel, you're in such a good spot. Why win HOH? So, Joel, I want to get your thoughts on this. Why did you win this head of household here? Because both you and Mitch were in the best spots in the house by far, and from my perspective at the time, it didn't seem like you guys needed to get any blood on your hands.
No, that's fair. I think in that moment, with all the pressure that had been put on me from that Christine and Cassandra eviction, I was like, okay, now I felt like I could have potentially been exposed because people knew very quickly after the eviction that I was the 6th vote and that Tim had switched his vote. So I felt like the spotlight was more on me, so I wasn't 100% sure that that other side of the house, the Dallases, the Maddies, and the Ramseys and stuff, wouldn't maybe be pissed off at me that I didn't vote the way they wanted to vote. So being a swing vote and being in the middle is good to a point, and then when you're sort of the deciding vote and one side knows which way you went, then that can potentially put you in a bit of a precarious position the following week. So in that moment, I did not feel 100% safe, and I felt like I needed to win the head of household just to ensure that I could be safe for the week and ensure that the 5 people that voted against Cassandra were not going to win or go against me.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I just, it's totally, when you're in there, you have one perspective, and it's different than, you can't see everything from the outside, and I didn't know what you were feeling during that moment, so that explains it, so thank you. Before we get into your nominations, Joel, I want to talk about this have-not competition that you guys played in and that you hosted. This was the baseball one. I don't know what it was called. I don't know what the name of it was. Big
Brother Baseball, I think.
Big Brother Baseball. So we saw in the Big Brother Baseball have-not comp, Tim really kind of lost it. He threw his bat at Maddie. Was that like an actual wood bat, or was that plastic? Because I remember debating this at the time, and I think it was when I had the shield on, actually, and we were trying to figure out what exactly that was. So did you know?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember exactly. I think it was maybe a wood bat, but I don't, just from like how much in pain Maddie was afterwards and how pissed Dallas was and literally wanting to like knock Tim out right then and there afterwards. But I didn't ever go down to the field level at all because I was upstairs in the broadcaster's booth the entire time calling the game. So I didn't bother to take a look at that. I know that was one of the more intense moments, and it from a moment where it was like everybody just having a ball, drinking some beers and stuff like that, it turned south really, really quickly, and then I had to have the nominations later on that night, so I was like, can we leave this to another time? There's already too much tension and emotions going on right now.
Taryn, what was because there was some Mitch thing too, right, during that comp? Like, I don't remember what it was, but we didn't see it on feeds because they were cut during the comp, obviously. Do you remember, Taryn?
Well, I believe he was like crying at some point. I think like there were multiple people that were crying because it was kind of like an intense thing. Am I right, Joel?
Yeah, 100% right. I don't know if it showed it on the show, but when Tim threw the bat and hit Maddie, Dallas was just absolutely livid and being like, "You don't throw your bat. You don't go at a lady like that. That is not cool, Tim." And just literally like this close to wanting to just go at him and just knock him out, and then everybody just got like so caught up in the moment, and I think that's maybe why Mitch was upset, was just that everybody was just being so hardcore and going at each other. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't see the Dallas thing on the show, but that makes sense.
Dallas exploded. Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, it's totally understandable. Tim threw his bat. Like, you don't do that. I mean, that was crazy. And I know I'm laughing, but I shouldn't be laughing. Like, that is somebody could have seriously got injured by him just throwing that, especially if that is a wooden bat and not just something that's plastic. So, wow,
too, like over the vine like that. Like, who's gonna like? That's just, everyone's there just sitting having a good time, and he just throws it over the fence like that. It was like, whoa.
That is what happens when you put alcohol, you mix alcohol with competitions on Big Brother, in which there are objects that can be thrown at other people. So maybe they won't do that in the future, which is disappointing, because that was a fun comp in concept. Yeah. If only the bat throw didn't become a thing. So let's talk about your nominations, Joel. You took a shot. You made a big move this week. You decided to nominate Kelsey and Raul. You targeted the third wheel. Why target those two? Why put them up and not Jared? Did you have some sort of working relationship with Jared, or did you just not want to deal with his wrath afterwards?
I had a really good, strong working relationship with Jared at that point, and me and Jared were very logical, very rational players in the game, and I felt like I knew how tight he was with Kelsey and Raul, and those three together were an unbreakable bond, which is a term that got coined a lot throughout the season, but it's a term that I was the one who started first, so you're welcome, Kelsey, and everyone else. But I knew that for me, I wanted to take a shot at one of those three because I knew the following week they would be in a lot more control of the votes and the amount of their chances to win head of household. I think it would have been like a 3 out of 12 chance to win. And I knew that that side of the house was really, really tight, and the other side of the house I knew had cracks in them. Ramsey and Dallas had a few blow-ups with each other. Maddie was so irrational and all over the place. She wasn't in alliance with them, but I knew that Maddie was not somebody who could flop back and forth, and I knew the other side of the house had cracks in them. So my idea with the HOH was I have to take a shot at one of these sides. I don't want to put up one from each side because then I potentially have those people wising up and say, let's all get together, and all of a sudden now there's like 6 people potentially coming after me as opposed to just 2 people coming after me.
Everybody was blaming Levita for your move, Joel. Nobody was getting mad at you. We saw Jared yell at Levita. We saw lots of stuff where everyone was like, "Oh, you know, Joel, like it wasn't you. It was all Levita." Did you know that was how the house was going to react when you decided to do that?
I didn't know that the house was going to react that way, but I guess it worked out okay for me because it's pretty hard when you make a big move like that to not have any blood on your hands whatsoever and not have everybody all mad at you. So it took a while. The first couple of days or so, I was a little insulted, the fact that they were pitting everything on Levita and being like, hey guys, I'm the one head of household. Levita was not in that nomination room putting the 2 people there to consider for nomination. So I was the one who did that. So the first couple of days, I was a little insulted by that, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, like they're not coming after me, so I'm just gonna like play it up and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I was too scared. I didn't know what to do.
Did you know at the time, or do you know now that, like, I think a large part of the reason that they thought that was that immediately following the nominations, Jared and Kelsey talked to Mitch, and Mitch pinned it on Levita like crazy. He was like, yeah, Levita basically bullied him into it, and that's why they thought that so strongly.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. That's interesting because me, Mitch, and Levita had discussed which side would be a better option to go to, and Mitch said that he would not want to go after the Kelsey, Jared, and Raul side of things, but he also said he would support me if I did that, right. But it would not be the way he would want to go. So Mitch is very, very good with his words. He doesn't he's not blatant like Dallas and be like, all right, I'm going after you and I'm going after you. He'll just say, this could be a good idea, but at the same time, I'll still support you and I'll still be okay with you. So he's good.
Yeah, basically what he was saying was like, yeah, I was trying to get a word in for you guys, but Levita was always there and she was just in his ear the whole time. I couldn't do anything. I'm sorry. And then immediately Jared was like, I'm so pissed at Levita, and he ran up and yelled at her.
Poor Levita, man. She couldn't catch a break.
I know. No.
Oh man. Okay, so there we go. So Joel gets off scot-free with his taking his big shot. Let's see. So I scrolled down a little bit of my notes. Okay, so Dallas wins this POV, decides not to use it. You are campaigning for Kelsey to go home, but prior to this week, Joel, every week the HOH's target stayed. So were you concerned a little bit that Kelsey was going to manage to hold on somehow?
Not really. I think at that point, I wasn't really concerned. I just wanted one of those 2 people to go home. Obviously, Kelsey was my target at that point, but if Raul had gone home, I knew Raul was somebody who was very emotional, just like Kelsey, and it didn't really matter to me which one of them went home. I knew that once the POV wasn't used, I'm like, okay, now there's one shot and one of them is gone, and then now hopefully I can fade back into the background. And I'd already promised Jared that he wasn't ever on my radar at that point. I wasn't going to put him up as a replacement nominee beforehand once I made the nominations. So I was banking on just falling back into the shadows. It didn't matter to me which one was going, so I wasn't really concerned either way. I just wanted to take a shot at one of them.
So from here, Kelsey's evicted 8-2 in the first half of this fake double eviction. So we jump to the double part of this of the fake double eviction, I guess. Maddie wins this HOH. Are you feeling safe at this point, Joel?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay just because I could have potentially put Maddie up on the block with Dallas during my HOH, and I did them a favor. So I knew that I wasn't number one on the radar for Maddie, so I felt okay with that. The only person I was nervous about potentially winning that head of household would have been Raul.
Okay, so there we go. So return up, Raul does not win it. In fact, Raul goes on the block. He sits next to Jared. The brothers win the power of veto. They save Jared, and now somebody is going to have to go on the block. Joel, at this point, who did you think Maddie was going to name as the replacement nominee?
I knew it was going to be Levita literally like 5 seconds after Nick had won that power of veto. Everybody was over at Nick and being like, all right, guys, we're backdooring Levita. This is what's happening right now. We're going to backdoor Levita. So literally, like when they opened the doors for us to go into the living room, everybody was in Maddie's ears saying, Maddie, you got to put up Levita. Nick and Phil are going to use the veto. And me and Dallas were the only ones that went to Maddie and are like, yeah, you're an idiot if you do this, because she's on your side. She legitimately has wanted to work with you from the very beginning of this game. So why in the world would you get rid of one of your alliance members that has your back throughout this? So me and Dallas, she was scared that the one person that was going to be left, Raul, was going to go after her, and it would be too overwhelming for her. So she had to go along with the majority of the house at that point, according to her.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize what Maddie's viewpoint was on that, but there you go. Okay, so Levita goes home. She's evicted by a vote of 7-2 in the second half of the fake double. Before we move on to week 5, Taryn, any thoughts on this series of events?
Yeah, I did want to ask Joel. It seemed as though during your HOH, especially, you got much closer to Levita over the course of your HOH, and then into the double eviction. You were obviously very upset when she left. That was a big blow to your game to some extent. At that point, did you feel like you were closer to Levita than Cassandra, or had that not entered your mind yet? There was a point during my HOH where I did feel really close to Levita. I knew I was still in very good with Cassandra, but I knew Cassandra had a lot of really good relationships with other people in the house, and in particular people like Kelsey and like Jared. So I knew at that point that Cassandra still had my back to a point, but I didn't know necessarily that I was as high up on the food chain with her as I was with Levita. Whereas like a week during my HOH, I was like, okay, Levita has my back 100%, and not only does she have my back, but she is like sort of the number 2 for me. So we were 1-2 for her, whereas Cassandra, I thought maybe I was a little bit lower down in the pecking order at that point. Cool.
Okay, all right, there we go. So so that wraps that part up. Week 5 is what comes next. Tim wins this HOH here. And was it during this week, Joel, that the freak show was formed?
I believe it was it was either this week or the following week when Mitch becomes first person of the jury. It was some time in between then when we formed it. Yeah. I
think it was when Mitch was on the block. Yeah.
It was when Mitch was
on the block.
I think it
was.
Okay. So we can save that for then. So Tim wins this HOH. He nominates Dallas and Ramsey because of this gummy bear strategy. What was going through your head when you heard about this whole gummy bear situation? It was super entertaining to watch in the show, but I haven't talked to anybody who was actually on this season who actually lived through that experience about this yet.
I mean, for myself, I knew that we didn't have an official alliance at this point, but I knew that myself and Cassandra, once Tim and Nikki walked into the house, our goal was to be super friendly with these people and take these people in and show, because everybody else was just like so pissed and just been like, this is stupid, and now our chances of winning went down a little bit because there's two people in. So I felt really good with my relationship with Tim, that there wasn't a chance that I was going to go up, and I knew that I was in good with everybody else, that I didn't think I was going to have any koalas put on me. So my only strategy at that point was Dallas kind of made it easy for everybody. He openly said, like, all right, guys, I'm not playing Tim's game, so just put your koalas on me. So that was an easy out at that point to throw some on Dallas. And then we had talked with myself and Mitch and a couple other people as to who the other person should be, and we all came to a consensus that Ramsey should be the other one.
Was there
just to guard against any other ally.
Was there any talk at all, Joel? Like, did Dallas try to lead any like revolt of like trying to get people to just not partake in this whole gummy bear situation, or did that never come to fruition?
I think Dallas had a very brief moment where he said, guys, you know what, let's just like let Tim get the blood on his hands and not play Tim's game. But at that point, Dallas only had a few people in his court, and Dallas legitimately, once Levita left the house, Dallas was kind of on his own for the most part. So there wasn't a lot of people that were willing. I think Dallas still trusted me because I was the only one that voted to keep Levita during that double eviction. But at the same time, I'm not the type of person like a Dallas who will pipe up and speak out and say, like, guys, let's not do this, because that's just not my game. I'm not the type of person to speak and to stand out like a sore thumb. That's Dallas's game. So Dallas at that point felt like he was kind of on his own, and I think nobody really like cared to listen to him at that point. We were just like, all right, Dallas, you're on your own. Sorry, buddy.
Oh man, yeah, it was a rough week for Dallas, week 5. So Dallas goes home here. Ramsey ended up winning the POV. Maddie ended up going on the block, but it seemed like it was kind of a, it was inevitable. He was going home. He was the target for the entirety of the week. Well, never mind. Sorry, never mind. I forgot.
This was when the season.
Yeah, this was when This was when the Mitch and Tim war happened, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what happens when it's only been like a month, and I've already forgot all this stuff. Okay. So my apologies. Thankfully, both of you guys are on the ball. Okay, take two. Take two. Okay. Okay, here we go. So take 2. So Ramsey wins the POV. Maddie goes on the block. Refresh my memory, Joel. When does this like Mitch and Tim war kind of come to fruition of the Dallas versus Maddie campaigning, that whole situation?
Okay, so until about a day or two before the actual eviction happens, Tim is dead set on, okay, Dallas is the loudmouth. Dallas has already proven himself as a good competitor in the house, and Dallas is somebody who has to go at this point. And it's not until a couple days before the eviction where Tim has a bit of a change of heart, where we decide that, hey, Dallas is a much bigger target. Maddie and Ramsey have become very, very close at this point. And Maddie was such a wild card in the house that you really never knew where she was going to go. She had just put up one of her own alliance members and sent her home strictly just out of spite and because a few other people told her to do that. But that was when myself, Cassandra, and some other people talked to Tim and were like, maybe we should switch things up, because Dallas is not only a bit of a loudmouth, but he's also somebody who is a big competitor and who openly declared war on Jared at that point. So we could use Dallas to get some of the bigger players out on that third wheel side of things. And then we can easily vote Dallas off once he does a little bit of dirty work for us. So he was always going to be a target ahead of us. So that was the seed we planted with Tim. And then it came down to, okay, we've got myself on board, we had Cassandra on board, we had the brothers on board, and we needed to get Nikki on board. And unfortunately, Nikki was so in tight with Mitch that but she was also really, really tight with Tim, and then that's kind of when the war between Tim and Mitch first started up, and it wasn't until a fight between Dallas and Mitch, maybe like 20 minutes or so before the eviction, where Nikki switched her vote to Dallas. Originally, it was heading into the eviction. This is a lot to take in, but okay, heading into the eviction, it was supposed to be It was supposed to be Nikki voting for Dallas, and it was going to be 5-3. Tim was working very hard to try to get Nikki to make it 4-4, and then he would break the tie so that Tim would send Maddie home. And downstairs in the living room, just out of nowhere, we're all quiet, and Maddie pipes up and says, "You know what? I've made up my mind. I'm going to keep Dallas in the house because Dallas wants this more." So we're like, okay, great. Dallas is going to stay. It's going to be 4-4. And then there was a fight between Dallas and Mitch in the living room maybe like 5 minutes later. Mitch went into his room all upset and broken up and stuff, and Nikki came in to console him, and at that point, that's when Nikki felt she switched her vote again, but didn't tell anybody about it until we found out by a vote of 5-3, Dallas, you're gone.
Yeah, that was...
Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Taryn.
That was a totally crazy moment for us because we had seen the back and forth, like from when Cassandra initially started the seed because she wanted Maddie out more than Dallas, all the way down to like when the feeds cut. Nikki had said that she was going to vote Dallas out, and then the feeds came back, and there was pandemonium, and it was like, whoa. At one point, Nikki changed her mind, and now it's back again. And like, Mitch was talking to her in the bedroom, and like apparently, like we were like, apparently he like picked a fight with Dallas in order to get Dallas to blow up, so that he could use that and be like, Nikki, you need to protect me. And she totally bought into it, and that was so crazy. Like, and he even told her not to tell anyone. So what were you thinking when?
Until the vote.
Yeah, what were you thinking when that vote was read? Like, what was going through your mind?
Well, when it was 5-3, I just said to myself, "Oh crap, Nikki flipped again." But I said to myself, when Nikki outwardly said that she was keeping Dallas, I said, "Okay, we're good." But then I talked to Dallas and was just like, "Dallas, whatever you do, just don't celebrate, don't get involved in anything with anybody. Literally, just like sit in a corner and don't talk to anybody and don't say anything, don't look at anybody until the eviction. That's the and then you'll be good." And then, of course, he had to get in the living room and get into it with Mitch. And at that point, I was like, okay, I still thought maybe Nikki would stick to it, but I knew that Dallas is such a volatile person that something as simple as that probably could have flipped Nikki. But I didn't know for sure until the vote.
What exactly was the fight about? Like, do you remember, or they just started yelling at each other? Like, what exactly was it?
It was some sort of a deal that Dallas had made with Mitch, I think, because Dallas was campaigning very hard, obviously, because his butt was on the line, and he was going home a few days later for sure. And he had cut some sort of a deal that he wouldn't go after Mitch, like I want to say like a 1 or a 2 week deal or something like that with him. And then Mitch outwardly talked about that, and Dallas is somebody who, when somebody asks him who you're going to target and stuff, he would throw out a whole bunch of names all the time, and Mitch used that to his advantage. So Mitch was like, okay, you said you were going to put up Ramsey, and you said you were going to put up this person. And so he kind of forced Dallas to backpedal a little, and then Dallas didn't like getting put on the spot like that, so he started doing what he does, and that's like getting all defensive but getting very loud and in Mitch's face. And then Mitch kind of played it up that he was the victim in that whole situation. And to his credit, that helped get Nikki to vote his way.
Yeah, I believe at one point Mitch called Dallas a liar, and Dallas was not a fan of that. And yeah.
Oh man, Mitch is great. I can't wait. It's so great hearing this story because because a lot of this didn't even make feeds, right, Taryn? It was just so
it was very choppy that day, but yeah, it was crazy. The whole like 2 to 3 days that took place was just nonstop action on the feeds. Like one of the best like moments of watching feeds in a very long time. So yeah.
Yeah,
so there we go.
It was just like a ping pong. It was just back and forth. It was insane.
And the stakes were so high too because it really like both Mitch and
Yep.
Tim had put so much investment into who was going to stay and who was going to go at that point that it was like
Right.
whoever wins that battle is going to have a huge amount of momentum moving forward.
Yeah, this
Yep.
was. I mean, so that happens, Joel. So so fair to say you were a little blindsided by that, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit. I still knew that I wasn't like number one on the radar of the other people, of Maddie, who I voted against, or of Ramsey or Jared or them. But whenever you're on the wrong side of the numbers, it's definitely not a good thing.
No, definitely not. So that happens to you, and then the double whammy of that, and also the reveal that there is the week before was a fake eviction, and you getting rid of Kelsey wasn't actually legit. She
All
was
for naught.
actually in Big Brother's secret suite for a week. The app, what a great name by production. Like, can't you come up with a better name? Whatever. Okay. Regardless. So Kelsey, you find out that, okay, Kelsey or Levita is going to come back into the house, and you guys are going to be able to decide who, in terms of who comes in. Now, we didn't really get to see how long this deliberation was, Joel. So how long was it? We saw the speech from Kelsey. We saw the speech from Levita. Both speeches were kind of just like meh, whatever. So I think as viewers, we all kind of just thought, okay, this is kind of just a crapshoot here.
Yep.
Although we kind of figured that Kelsey was going to go back in because she had more friends. So how long was this deliberation? Were a lot of people debating over it for a period of time, or was it kind of a done deal that it was going to be Kelsey coming back the entire time?
It seemed pretty clear cut. The thing is, had it been Dallas that would have stayed, then we would have probably been there for a lot longer, because Dallas is somebody who doesn't mince words, but Dallas is somebody who would down, and if there's something that he is against, he is not a quiet person like myself that won't speak up unless like Dallas just can't control himself. So Dallas would have put his foot down and been like, no, Levita's coming back in, and I don't care if everybody else here wants Kelsey to come back in. I'm holding my ground on that. But as Dallas had left and he didn't have a say in it, it was a pretty quick thing that Jared and a few other people had spoken up about the fact that they didn't want Levita, that Levita scared them, because Levita, for them, was strictly just a game player and not there to make friends and not there to get to know people at all. So that was their angle, was that Kelsey was somebody who was more personable, and the whole friendship thing and everything, because that's what a lot of people were there for, just to make friends and be all buddy and stuff. Hey-o! But so yeah, it happened pretty quick that nobody really had the guts to speak up and say anything. There was some people. Maddie was really scared because she had backdoored Levita the week before, and for myself, I knew that Levita was going to be on my side, but at the same time, I knew the last couple of weeks or so that Levita was in the house, she kind of like clung to me the entire time, to the point where there was times where I was just like, oh, I kind of don't want to, like, I loved her and stuff, but I knew the perception that other people could have if somebody is literally like clinging to you the entire time, that they're like, oh, these people are a pair, these people are threats, let's put these people up. So from my standpoint, I was afraid that if Levita came back, everyone knew how close me and Levita were, that they would try to target Levita right away, and just because of that, they might put me up on the block just as a pawn, and then you never know. If Levita wins a veto or something like that, maybe they're like, okay, Joel maybe is not the strongest competitor out there, but we just want to cut any ties Levita has, so sorry, Joel, you're the victim of this situation. And yeah, I'd left on very good terms with Kelsey at that point, that I knew that that she wasn't going to go after me.
Yeah, I think that ultimately I think that worked out fine for you. I mean, I'm sure it would have been nice to have Levita there, but like Lisa Donahue in Big Brother 3, when she had the chance to vote Eric back in the house and she decided not to bring him back, I think this is a similar type of thing. You get to kind of continue to be viewed as a lone wolf, somebody who is not really a big threat, and I think that kind of helped carry you through the weeks ahead, and helped you for when you were on the block for this upcoming week, which we'll get into here. Week 6, Raul wins HOH. Raul shocks the world and wins. Everybody was stunned when Raul won, but good on Raul pulling out that win. So you are nominated here with Mitch, Joel, and we saw in the edited version of the show, Kelsey came in. She told Jared and Raul right away that Mitch can't be trusted, and the third wheel was kind of crumbling. They were all fighting, and there's all this stuff going on. Did word spread relatively quickly that Mitch was kind of playing everyone? Did that go around the whole house?
Yeah, it did pretty fast as soon as Kelsey came back in. I know Raul and Mitch had a few intense arguments, and it got to a point where I think the day before nominations, or it might have been even before the head of household competition, Mitch had a talk with me about asking me to vouch for him that the alliance him and Levita made wasn't actually an alliance. So he was looking for me to vouch for him that he wasn't pitting anybody against each other, and that him, and Levita didn't have an alliance or anything like that. So he was looking to me to help him out in this situation. And I mean, I didn't give him like a yes or a no, but in my head I was just like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't stick my neck out and help you out on this one, buddy. Sorry. So no, yeah, it spread pretty quick. There was a lot of intense arguments, and you could tell Mitch was getting very, very desperate at that point. That a lot of his game, which he did a very, very good job of keeping under wraps to a lot of people, was starting to unravel.
How did you feel about this twist, Joel? Were you a fan of this twist? Do you think this twist was fair game, or were you kind of upset that this was a thing?
I mean, it's always something that is a part of Big Brothers and Survivors and things like that. They always bring people back, particularly in Big Brothers. It's one of those where it's not the worst twist in the world. I don't think there's things that you can do to control this. I think to a certain point, because when you're going to evict somebody like that, have a good relationship with them, make sure you leave on good terms. So it's not the worst twist in the world. I'm not the biggest fan of bringing people back in, because for me, if you get kicked out, then clearly you've done some things wrong to get yourself kicked out of the house. And Kelsey, to that point, didn't even really try to campaign to stay in week 1 or in week 4. She had Jared doing all of her work for her. And yeah.
All right. So, yeah, just curious to get your take on that, because it was pretty controversial amongst a lot of the fans. And Taryn was a huge fan of the fake double eviction, right, Taryn?
Okay.
I love all twists, Jordan. All twists.
If you can't sense the sarcasm, Joel, Taryn he despised this very greatly. He was not a fan. Okay, so Raul wins. You're on the block. You're next to Mitch. Are you worried at all? I mean, Jared wins the POV. The noms stay the same. Are you scared at all that you're going home after that speech that Mitch gives? And what's going through your head when Mitch is giving that Godfrey Manguiza-esque speech right beside you?
My thought was that I was so well liked in the house at that point that if there was anybody that could switch it around and get me voted out, then it would be Mitch. So I knew I had votes for sure locked up in my court. I knew it was going to be something around a 4-4 or a 5-3. So I knew I definitely had three votes, probably even 4 votes locked up for sure. So it was just a question of, I didn't want to chance it at that point, so I wanted to ensure that I had a 5th vote locked up. But there's definitely a lot of moments where I would pop in. I didn't want to come off too aggressively and campaign too hard. The only campaign that Mitch kind of called out the third wheel people and said I had a perfect argument to counter that to people, and that was the fact that Mitch is saying he's going after them, but Mitch has never been in a position to go after them, and everybody knew that Mitch was so tight with those people at that point, whereas my counter argument would be, okay, well, I was HOH, who did I put up on the block? I went after the third wheel, so I proved through my actions that I can go after that, and that I'm not afraid to go after that. So that it was good that I had a counter argument for everything that Mitch said. I didn't have to like campaign for 2 hours or so like Mitch had to with every single person. But yeah, it was nervous, but at the same time, I knew I had going to be a tie.
All right, so Mitch was evicted by a vote of 5-3. Ramsey, Maddie, and Nikki all vote against you. Taryn, anything you want to add before we jump forward to week 7?
Well, this is when you kind of formed an even tighter bond with Tim and Cassandra, and you kind of make the freak show.
Freak show.
Yes. So.
Yeah, and what's the pronunciation? What's the
Yeah.
correct pronunciation? Because we thought it was Freak Show for the whole season until like the very end when Tim's like, no, it's Freak Show with the 3. So like what?
Yeah.
What was it? Joel?
It was the Freak Show. I've seen some posters and stuff online saying Freak Show, F-R-E-A-K, but it was actually there was 3 of us, and it was Freak like the number 3, the Freak Show.
Okay, so there we go. It was Freak Show. All right. So you make this alliance here, and you're feeling pretty good about Tim and Cass in week 6. You're feeling like you want to go all the way to the end with these guys?
I'm feeling that I want to go all the end with Cass. I wanted to go deep into the game with Tim. I didn't necessarily want to take Tim to a Final 3 situation because I wasn't 100% sure that given a Final 3 situation with myself, Tim, and Cassandra, that Tim would have kept me over Cassandra because I knew how close of a bond Tim had with Cassandra. I knew Tim had a lot of respect for me, but Tim, the gamer in Tim, probably saw more in Cassandra than he did in me. So for me, I was wanting to go with all 3 of us to at least Final 5 or Final 4. Ideally, I wanted to cut Tim at about Final 5 or Final 4, and then in a perfect world, go into a Final 3 situation with Nikki and with Cassandra, because those are 2 people that I think I can beat in any competition. I mean, I think no matter what kind of competition it is, even if I took like 10 hours, I think I could still beat Nikki at any competition. And at the same time, I felt very good that my bases would be covered in the unlikely event that one of those 2 won head of household over me in Final 3. I felt Nikki would for sure take me over Cass, and I felt like Cass would have taken me over Nikki as well. So that was my ideal situation. I definitely want to go deep with the 3, but not all the way to Final 3 with Tim.
Okay, let's jump to week 7. Maddie wins head of household here. She nominates Jared and Kelsey. She uses the lady pleaser speech of "This ain't love is paradise." Jared wins POV. Kelsey and Raul go up, and Raul is evicted 6-1. Don't really have anything from my notes that stand out. So, Taryn, is there anything that comes to mind from week 7 that you want to ask Joel?
No, I think this was a pretty quiet week, I think.
Yeah, I thought so
the
too.
only thing is Raul's whole campaign to all of us, to the swing voters, was that he's alone and that he was going to offer us security. That was always his campaign. Was he wouldn't say anything else. He wouldn't be specific about like, I'm not going to put you up, I'm not going to backdoor you. I'll offer you security. So if he would have stayed that week, it would have been myself and everybody else left in the game would have been secure. So if he would have been head of household, every other person there would have somehow been safe in the house in a game where you have to put 2 people up and 1 person goes home. He offered every single person security as part of his campaign. So I don't know. Maybe I made a mistake on that one, and we all would have been safe. But that was kind of the last nail in the coffin, where we were like, okay.
Yeah, you didn't know, Joel? Raul's related to Lawan from BB13. He just gets free superpowers.
Oh,
he can save you all. He's a security guard. Raul is a security guard. He can save everyone. Oh, man. Good old Raul, man. That's so funny. I love that. Okay, so Raul offers security. It's not enough. Raul goes home right behind Mitch. He's evicted by a vote of 6-1. So let's jump to week 8. This is when the brothers win HOH, and they decide to nominate Maddie and Ramsey. And this is also the week in which Ramsey goes home because Ramsey has to go leave to go be with his dad. So from there, so Ramsey won the veto. Tim goes on the block because he volunteers, and it works out a little bit better for Tim than it does for some other people. But Taryn, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Tim did volunteer, but he was going to go on the block anyway because he screwed up with the brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just Tim's way of just being like, no, I'm not giving you the satisfaction. I'm going to nominate myself. I'm definitely going to win part 2 of the HOH, so I'm just going to throw it and say that, I wasn't even trying just because I can't live with losing. Anyway, okay, so Tim goes on the block with Maddie. Maddie goes home here. In terms of your game, I don't really think too much is going on, Joel. Taryn, anything stand out in your mind from week 8?
Well, as I mentioned, Tim, he kind of overplays his cards with the brothers and really ticks them off and pushes them into Jared's hands. And so after Ramsey, or actually a little bit before Ramsey leaves, they're already thinking, we want to put Tim on the block, we want to send Tim home. And then when Ramsey leaves, they lose their votes to do that. But they still tried to make the push. So how much of this were you aware of, Joel, and how worried were you for Tim?
I was a little bit worried for Tim on the last day. That's the first time when things started switching around, and Jared even came up to me before the vote, maybe an hour or two, and was like, hey, Joel, are we making the right decision? And I said, of course we're making the right decision. We're keeping Tim. Tim's like one of my close alliance members right now. You don't know that, but of course I'm going to keep Tim in the house. Maybe it's not necessarily good for you because we're coming for you in a week or two, but wasn't until that point where the brothers were very subtly trying to persuade me to switch things up. They never said specifically on the eviction day, Joel, vote Tim out, but they said, Joel, I think that they said I would support you if you voted Tim out, and I think it could solidify our spot with me and you in the Final Four with Jared and Kelsey. And it's like, yeah, maybe that's a good idea, but it was never seriously ever. Yeah, no, that sounds. I mean, that's what I was doing a lot of times. Was just one side would come up to me and say that, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Okay, but like in my mind, I was like, yeah, there's zero chance that I was gonna vote Tim out. But Tim actually, at the start, when the brothers got HOH, before they actually made their nominations, because they were going so back and forth and just freaking the hell out about who they should put up, to the point where Tim was just like, okay, do you guys want a lifeline and like call your parents to ask them who you should put up on the block? Because literally there was a couple of occasions where they told me and Tim, who do we put up on the block? What should we do?
Oh, I remember that.
We're like, cool, but it got to the point where Tim was so frustrated that they couldn't make a decision that he was just like, just put me up and Maddie up on the block and then just be done with it. So Tim had recommended early on at that point to put himself up on the block, but it was only because everybody except for Maddie and Ramsey said put up Maddie and Ramsey. That's the only reason they went the way they did.
That was the funny thing, though, because Tim was actually the one directing the brothers flip-flopping. Like, he was the one that got the brothers to want to nominate Jared in the first place, and then he convinced them not to in front of him. And then when they were like, Tim, why did you convince us not to when you told us earlier to? When he was in front of you, he was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. And then he flipped again, saying, no, I want you to go after Jared again. And they were like, what are you doing, Tim? And it was really funny because then on the edited show he was like, these brothers, they're so flip-floppy, I can't understand what they're doing. It was really funny.
Yeah, well, that's what we thought. We're just like, just make a freaking decision. Canada voted you to be the head of household. You guys have been saying that you're targets from the very beginning of this game. That's all they were always freaking out about, was we're targets in this game, and now you're safe and in a position of power. So think for yourselves and make a decision that you guys think is best for your game.
Yeah, they were really desperate for Tim to tell them what to do, and so when he kept going back and forth, they couldn't take it.
That's funny.
So there we go. They finally come to a decision. They put up Tim. Maddie is on the block next to him. Maddie goes home unanimously. So that pretty much wraps up week 8. Joel, were you expecting an instant eviction or a triple at some point?
Yeah, there was actually me and Cass had talked all the time the day before and planned out like, hey, if there's a triple eviction this week, here's who we have to put up. If there's an instant eviction, here's who we have to put up. And I believe that if during that week when Nick and Phil were picked to be head of household, if it would have been an instant eviction, I would not have been surprised if it would have been Kelsey and Jared going up on the block and then Jared going home that week. Because Phil was always freaking out about the fact that Jared just doesn't talk it against me. Jared just never talks to me at all. And just strictly on that rationale, he wanted to put up Jared and Kelsey.
Remind me at the end of this, Joel, to ask you to do some impressions of some people, okay? Because that was good. I like that. Okay. All right. So we finished week 8. Maddie is gone. She's in jury. It's week 9. Cass has won HOH, so that means it's a pretty easy week for you. You don't really have to sweat too much.
Yep.
The Bros and Nikki go on the block, and this is when the brothers win that power veto where they take all the punishments and they, get Sarah Hanlon to cut their hair. You take slop for the rest of the season.
Yep.
Was that ever in doubt for you, or when the slop came up, or did you? Because you said on the show that you didn't really mind slop that much, but I mean that takes a lot, man. You were committed to winning that veto. I don't care how much you don't like slop. Like slop is not fun regardless of who you are.
No, I mean there was two schools of thought that I was thinking when the slop thing came up. One of them was that this is worth a lot of points, and I want to make sure that I win this veto to ensure that. I wanted Jared out that week, so I knew the brothers were gonna hard for the veto, but I was fighting really hard to ensure that Jared didn't win the veto. So that's why I bid really a high on that particular item. I think it was worth like 11 or 12 points, and I knew that I could handle the flop, but at the same time, I was using it as a bit of a strategic move for people to feel a little bad for me and that they would be like, oh, poor Joel, he's all weak and everything on slop, so let's be nice to him and not want to kick him out anytime soon. So I had definitely had that school of thought as well.
I can confirm that Tim and Cassandra especially had a bunch of talks after that. Like, Joel is just the best. He really stepped up for us in that competition. Like they were in love with you after that competition. So good job.
As well they should be.
Yeah, slop's not easy, man. Slop sucks. So good on you for doing that, Joel. Okay, so all right. So the brothers win the power veto. Jared goes on the block. There's that huge, Jared versus Cass situation.
Yep.
Jared goes home. Doesn't really seem like there's any question once he's on the block. Taryn, do you have any questions for Joel before we move on to the double eviction side of things?
Well, this is the week I think that I noticed in particular that you were really starting to make big moves with Nikki to ensure how close you were with her and to ensure that she would take you to the end if you made it there with her. And I was very excited for you at this point because I felt like you were setting yourself up really well, and you totally had her entranced with you at this time, and we see the result of that in the next week. So was that what was going what was your thought process there? That basically what I said.
Yeah, summed it up perfectly. I mean, I knew that with Mitch out of the picture, that I knew she still had a really good relationship with Tim, but I knew she still had a lot of questions with Tim because she knew how hard Tim was gaming, and there was a few points where Tim and Nikki did not get along, and so I made it a point to really get in really, really close with Nikki at that point, and I legitimately wanted to take Nikki really far to final 3 situation with myself, her, and Cass, and there wasn't really any question in my mind that I was keeping Nikki and wanting to drag Nikki along for a really, really long time, and it was around that point before Nikki had to blab it next week.
Yeah.
But it was around that point when I started being really close to her, where she actually told me in private, there's only one person I want to see win this game, and it's you. And I said, okay, well, that's nice of you, but can you just keep tight-lipped on that, please? And she said, yeah, of course, no problem whatsoever.
So can I ask, if you had made it to the final 3 with Nikki and Cassandra, who would you have taken to the final 2?
I mean, my thought process when I had that final 3 in mind was to take Cassandra, but I think I might have changed my mind if I was in the position of power to be head of household, because I was starting to realize around week 8 or week 9 how good of a game Cass was playing. I knew Cass had ruffled a lot of feathers with people in the jury, but at the same time, I knew that some people would respect that type of gameplay. People like Mitch, who had a lot of sway over the jury, maybe Mitch would have respected that and talked to some people out of not voting for Cassandra and been like, hey guys, let's respect Cassandra's game a little bit. But in the moment when I was thinking final 3, it was to take Cassandra.
Okay, interesting.
And I still think that either one of them, I think it would have been closer with Cassandra, but I think I would have won against either one. But hindsight, 2020.
Hindsight is 2020 indeed, my man. Before we jump into the double, Joel, I want to ask you one thing that I forgot to ask you earlier. When Cass won HOH, this week in week 9, that's because her dad won her the competition, which was awesome because I thought, wow, right. Cass and I have so much in common. We love Joel, and the only way we could win HOH would be for our dads to win the comp for us. But we saw on the show that you guys got to talk to family members a little bit. How long were the family members around? Did you guys talk to them for a decent amount of time, or was it only a minute?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was maybe, I'd say I was the last one to see my mom, and it was maybe I want to say 5 minutes or so, not even, just a quick how's everybody at home and everything like that. And yeah, they couldn't tell what's going on in the real world, so it was just how's the family and everything like that.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, so small talk basically.
Very, very quick small talk, and there was a lot of stuff they weren't allowed to talk to us about, obviously.
Okay.
So.
I remember your mom on Twitter. She was pretty active around that time. She was obviously very supportive of you, and she talked about because there was some talk that some other family members had kind of spilled some stuff that they maybe shouldn't have, and she said in particular, really? I was sure that I didn't ruin the integrity of the game, and I had a lot of respect for her that she did that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know who spilled beans now. What the hell? That's not cool.
Yeah, Joel, you're going to have to do some digging for us and find out.
Was that my undoing?
No, I don't think that was your undoing.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it was anything too big, but it was stuff like, be careful, don't trust this person, or, there was...
Didn't Cass's dad say, don't stop eating or something?
Well, she said something about Tim, hey, stay away from my daughter or something like that. I remember him saying that. Yeah, so you guys are saying that it was. You guys are saying that it was in season 2 when the plane flew over and it was hey, Nicole's a cheater or something. Didn't season 2 way back in the States have a plane flying over things?
I believe there was talk that Jared's sister told him that he could trust Cassandra, which was obviously false at the time. I don't know why she would have told him that. And there was some other stuff that I can't remember right now, but it was definitely a big controversy at the time because we didn't see the actual the talks that you had, but we saw people talking about the talks, and there was some information that they apparently got that seemed like it was a little excessive.
Okay. No, I guess I was too caught up in my crybaby-itis state with seeing my mom. I don't know.
Oh, love the crybaby-itis reference. Okay, so I also love when Taryn, when you and I get to inform Joel of stuff. That's what's cool for me.
Yes. That was always my favorite part of listening to interviews after the season, is getting to hear the reactions to things that the contestants didn't know. So yeah, it's fun being able to tell Joel stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the double eviction happens. The bros win HOH. So they decide to put up Nikki and Tim. Cassandra wins the POV. She saves Tim, and then we get the infamous Nick saying, "Arissa, we want to nominate ourselves." How that whole scenario, Joel. I mean, I know that it was cut
Yeah.
down for the double, but I know Big Brother is live to tape, so
Right.
it's possible that that was a lot longer than what we saw. How long was that whole situation where the brothers were like trying to decide who they were going to put up, and we saw Nick say, "Yeah, put us up," and Arissa was like trying to get confirmation, and she said,
Yeah.
"Are you sure?" How long was that whole
Yeah.
ordeal? Is that a long time?
That was a lot longer. If you compare from the fake double eviction to that double eviction, the fake double eviction was literally like, okay, here's a household. Like, it's okay. Kelsey's out the door. Maddie wins head of household. POV happens. That felt like all of that happened within like 5 minutes or so, from Kelsey leaving to Levita walking out the door and having the next head of household. This one felt like it felt like at least a half an hour, 45 minutes or so, from the time when Nick won that head of household competition to when they put me up as the replacement nominee. It was a lot longer. Even in between, when the brothers had Cass swear to her that if she won the veto, she wouldn't use it, and they had me there in the bathroom as a witness to shake on it that I wouldn't use it either. It was a lot longer, and even the amount of time when the brothers were like, "We'd like to nominate ourselves," it felt like, from our perspective, that Arissa was actually going to let them do that, which in my mind I was like, okay, this is perfect. We kind of wanted them. We knew they couldn't compete for power of veto, so for that bowling head of household one. So our thought process, myself, Tim, and Cass and Nikki, was just, okay, we just need to like knock down 5 pins, and then the brothers are out of the house and they can't do anything because they can't compete for POV. So when they said we'd like to nominate ourselves after that, I was like, okay, well, this is perfect. This is easier than we thought. And then we can just like sail to the end. This is perfect. And then, of course, Kelsey has to be the voice of reason to talk them off the ledge. But what are you going to do? I don't think they would have legitimately been able to nominate themselves up on the block. But Arissa seemed really, really unsure about it. So...
Yeah, Arissa has since gone on. She actually tweeted us after. She was like, "Yeah, no, like they could not. The rules state that the HOH cannot nominate themselves." So I think at the time Arissa wasn't 100% sure, but I think now Arissa knows,
Right.
and I think now we all know. You cannot nominate yourself if you are the HOH. So you went on the block, Joel.
But could they have self-evicted?
Oh,
Could they have self-evicted
in a
at that point?
double?
They were like, we want to walk out the door? Because that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
I mean, that would have been interesting, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
I think technically that would have been allowed, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, if you self-evict, but I don't think they're gonna let you self-evict in like 30 minutes or just like that, like during a double, just because
Well, that sucks.
there's a long. If you want to self-evict, there's a reason why people have not self-evicted on Big Brother. There's a long. They don't want people to self-evict, so I don't think they would have let that happen.
Fair enough.
Okay, so you go on the block, Joel. Are you scared at all sitting next to Nikki? Because I was scared for you, because looking at it from my perspective I was like, oh wow, Joel, big threat to win the game, and Nikki.
No, I wasn't nervous at all, actually, going up. In fact, Cass had lots of talks with Tim, and then she pulled me aside in the pantry maybe like 5 minutes or so beforehand, and I was running it through my head, and I said, you know what? Use the veto on Tim, because I wasn't 100% sure that the brothers were going to put me up, because the brothers, I think, legitimately for a long time in the game thought that they had me underneath their thumb, and I had formed an alliance with them around the same point that I had formed the Freak Show. Myself, Nick, and Phil formed an alliance called the French Connection. We were all francophones, so we all formed that early on around the midway point of the game. So I wasn't 100% sure that I knew the brothers were going to be torn to put me up on the block, and that it wasn't a sure thing. So they could have put Kelsey up on the block, which would have been an ideal situation. Well, ideally, they put themselves up and they walk out the door, and that's okay. But in the next logical thing, which could have worked, was them putting Kelsey up on the block, which was a bit of a possibility, I felt like, in the house at that time. So I felt that I knew I had 2 votes to stay, and that's all I needed. So I was comfortable going up on the block in the worst case scenario. So I told Cass, use the veto in this situation, and worst case scenario, I go up, but I know there's 2 votes in my corner for sure.
Okay, Taryn, anything you want to talk about before we move on to week 10? I know I can't believe we finally got to week 10, and it's going to be sad to talk about week 10. But
yes,
anything else you want to mention?
One of the biggest questions I had at the time was that it's because I had this idea that you definitely wanted to get to the end with Nikki and Cass. I was thinking, did it go through your head at all that if Cassandra doesn't use that veto on Tim, would you have maybe evicted Tim over Nikki? Did that cross your mind at all?
Oh, that would have been a really tough call because on one hand, I knew Nikki had my back, but on the other hand, I knew that the odds-on favorite to win all the competitions down the road were going to be Nick and Phil, and in particular Nick a lot more so than Phil. But so from that standpoint, I was like, okay, who's the next biggest competitor that could beat them in a head of household competition? And it was Tim, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, perfect world. One of us wins when the brothers don't have to can't compete in the power veto, and then we would have been fine. And then I could have stuck to cutting Tim at 5 or 4. But from that standpoint, the brothers just stepped up to the plate and won that head of household competition. So I actually. I don't know what I would have done, because I would have been really, really torn in that situation, because I definitely wanted the brothers out at that point, but at the same time I knew Nikki was in my corner, so that would have been an interesting eviction. I probably would have decided right when I went in the diary room what to do.
Oh man, that would have been fun to watch. Yeah, I was glad that you didn't have to make that decision, because it would have been tough either way. But I do think that Nikki staying in probably would have been better for your game, and then also we wouldn't have gotten the Nikki saying, "Joel, you're the winner," as she's leaving the house. So that didn't really help you either, my friend. So there was that
it did
too.
Not. And that was around. That was around the time where the brothers and some other people had talked to me and like, Joel, you've played a pretty flawless game up to this point, and now I was obviously trying to deflect and be like, not really. I haven't. What competitions have I won? What have I haven't been in any like tight alliances or anything like that. Made that many moves in the game. So I was. But it didn't help that Nikki said that, but it was a few days before that when the brothers first like talked to me and were like, "You played a pretty awesome game, Joel." And like, just shut up about that.
Okay, so let's jump to week 10. Unfortunately, this is Joel's last week in the house, so sad times. This is when somehow, I don't know how it happened, Kelsey wins HOH. Well, I guess I do know how it happened. She studied, and other people weren't studying. So good for Kelsey. She wins this HOH, and she decides that she's gonna put Cass and Tim on the block. How are you feeling at this point, Joel? You're obviously bummed that Kelsey has won the HOH, but you had to have been feeling pretty safe after the initial nominations, right?
Yeah, I absolutely felt safe. I knew there wasn't a chance at that point that I was going anywhere, that I was definitely going to Final Four. Obviously, I was bummed for the fact that at that point it was going to be either Tim or Cassandra that was going to probably go home unless I won the veto at that point. So I felt like, okay, once Tim and Cassandra are up on the block, like, okay, now I really need to step up and win this power veto competition to save everybody and to shock the brothers and to shock Kelsey, who legitimately felt like I was on their side and had no idea until that point that I was working with Tim and Cassandra so closely. So I was bummed, but at the same time, I knew I was going to move on at that point, at least another step into the game. But I knew down the road, one of them gone means that there's more pressure on me to have to win a competition at Final Four and Final Three.
So we saw, this veto competition. This is the one with the show me with the popcorn, and from our perspective from the show, and I remember saying this at the time, it just really seemed like there was a big miscommunication between yourself and Tim in this comp. The game plan from your side, your perspective, at least from what I saw, was that you wanted to win that final you wanted to win that POV. You were going to save the day. You were going to save Cass or Tim or whoever. Kelsey was going to have to, or sorry, the brothers were going to have to go on the block. You guys were going to vote with the brothers, and then you guys were all going to go to the Final Four together. But during the POV comp, and we've talked about this offline, Joel, we didn't really get to see, from our perspective on the show, what we saw was that Joel, or you were playing in the competition, and Phil asked you for a piece, and you just gave him the piece during the competition, and then Tim was like, "What's happening? Oh my gosh, why is Joel doing this? I can't believe it! Like he's betrayed us. He was never loyal to us." And Tim just kind of went off the deep end, and he went crazy, and he didn't really see what was going on. So from your perspective, can you explain what happened? Why did you give the puzzle piece in the veto competition to Phil rather than because I know there's a little bit more to this story than the show presented to us.
Yes. Okay. Well, basically, this was kind of the beginning of my undoing in the game, was this power of veto thing where everything kind of was a huge cluster, you know what. But so at the start of the day, actually, when we knew it was the power of veto competition, I had talked to Tim and Cassandra, had a very quick chat with them, and said, guys, if it comes down to a competition where a bunch of people are eliminated, and maybe it comes down to myself and Tim, or myself and Cass, or the three of us, or something like that, throw it to me, because that way everybody stays safe. I use the veto, and then we control the votes. Easy. And then that was literally the chat that we had. And then before the veto competition, I was talking to Kelsey, and the brothers, and we were when we knew that we could help each other out in the competition, they came to me and were like, all right, guys, we're going to help each other out. And I was playing up a bit of, how much I really, really want to win a competition, prove to people that I'm capable of winning. And they knew how much they was an actor. They knew how much I was into movies and things like that. So I was like, it'd be really great if you guys helped me out in this competition. And they said, okay, well, we'll do that, but you have to swear to us that you're not going to use the veto. And I said, of course, no question, I'm not going to use the veto. So I looked them all in the eye and shook their hand and said, yeah, I'm not going to use the veto. Obviously, I was going to use the veto. That was my intention. But what I don't think they showed on the show was me and Kelsey and Phil were talking to each other about what pieces we needed. And in the first part of the power veto competition, Phil actually gave me at least 2 or 3 of the movie cards so I could finish my puzzle. I think I was second to finish my puzzle on the first part of the competition. So I was like, okay, well, Phil is helping me out with this one. And then I think it was the next round when it showed me giving one of my cards to Phil, but I knew Phil was right beside me. I knew Phil still had like 3 or 4, and I think Tim was done that one pretty quickly at that point, if I remember correctly. And I knew Phil could see one of the cards that I had in my hand, and so I was just like, okay, how do I play this off where Phil still thinks I'm with them and they're still going to help me out in this competition? So I gave him that one card at that point. I was still able to finish my puzzle, and then it was myself, Phil, and Tim in the final round. But I felt like at that point just giving him one wasn't going to make that big of a difference in the competition. And he saw the card that I had right there. As soon as I flipped it up, he saw it right away and was like, I need that right away. So it was... yeah, that was the reason I gave him that one particular card. Still advanced in that round, and then the next round was, I think, where Tim said that he was trying to like communicate with me about what cards I needed in the pit. And at that point, I knew Kelsey and I knew Cassandra and everybody was like had all their focus and attention on me. and it was my mistake that I was just, I guess, too caught up in the moment to try to win that final round and beat out Phil, that I didn't just like take a step back and be like, all right, you know what, Tim's been crushing it the last 2 rounds. I need to just listen to Tim in this one and have Tim help me out and beat out Phil, and then who cares what they think. So it was more just a question of me being like, okay, Phil's been helping me out throughout this, so Phil's going to keep helping me out in this competition. And at that point, he wasn't there to help me out anymore. I don't know if that kind of clarifies that whole power of veto thing any more or less, but essentially I felt like I had a good plan to work all the angles, and then it kind of all like crumbled in the last round.
No, for sure. I think that gave us a lot of clarity, and it's tough when you're in actually in the. It's one thing when you're playing the game and you're trying to juggle all these things going on, but when you're in a live competition, that's something that's happening. It's unfolding before your eyes. It's really tough. If you're trying to play both sides during that in front of everyone, that's a really, really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Taryn, do you have any other questions about the veto comp there?
No, I mean that pretty much
kind of explains it, right? Yeah, I think that works well. Okay, so anyway, Tim wins this HOH. He says, "I'm the wild card." All this crazy stuff. He goes nuts. Uses it on himself.
Yeah.
You go on the block. Seems like you're safe, and Cass is going home. And then Kelsey starts to put in work, and that ultimately kind of leads to, and Cass as well. Cass also, well, I should say Kelsey doesn't really put in any work. It's really Cass. Cass is putting in work, and that leads to your downfall there, Joel. So in terms of like, did you know, like, when did you know, how close to your actual eviction did you know that, oh crap, my game is it's slipping away from me here?
It wasn't until about 2 days before the eviction that I was like, okay, my train is kind of going off, and I need to, be able to find some sort of a campaign quick to try to get things back on track. It wasn't until Cass started saying a lot about my game and how my game had been hidden for so long, and that myself, Tim, and Cass were in really, really close for such a long time. And at that point, I think, I believe it was at the start of the week when Kelsey first started to have a few questions in her mind about myself, because I think it was at the start of the week, if I remember correctly, right after Kelsey had won head of household, when Tim outwardly in the hot tub area said, oh, by the way, we're in an alliance called the Threak Show. And then that had Kelsey obviously being like, oh, well, I didn't know there was an alliance of 3, so that started planting some seeds in Kelsey. And then when Cass was like, hey, by the way, me and Joel and Tim have been working really close together, and me and Joel have been working so close from the very beginning of this game, that's when it all kind of came together for Kelsey. And then after that, it was when everything kind of started to unravel, and the brothers started to distrust because me and them had formed an alliance around the same time that I'd formed the Threak Show with Tim and Cassandra, and then basically everything just kind of unraveled. So it wasn't until about 2 days before the eviction where I was like, okay, things are going south for me really, really quick, and I needed to try to pull some sort of a campaign together to be like, hey guys, I know all this other stuff. I know you guys have gotten all this other information about me now, but at the same time, Cass is somebody who you guys have known all this crap about for so long, and Cass has broken how many deals with you guys already, so why give her another chance? But anyways, that campaign kind of fell off the rails too, and didn't really help my case at all. So I didn't know for 100% certainty until the day of the eviction that they were voting me off, but I had a good feeling that things weren't going to go my way probably a day or two beforehand, and I needed to try and think up the best arguments I could, and wasn't good enough.
Joel, we saw in the days leading up to your eviction, you were really down. Like you were seemed pretty upset. You even, there was talk that you said, you were saying to Cass, like, "Oh, why am I even here? I should just let you stay. Maybe I should just self-evict." There was talks about that. Was that legitimate? Was that true, or was that genuine, or was that you kind of just playing up that you were sad to try to get Cass off of her game?
That was legitimately just me in that moment. Was I ever going to like pull the trigger and walk out the door? No, I was never going to do that. I had come too far to just like give my game up at that point, but I legitimately just like felt so bad in the heat of that moment that I was just like, okay, you know what? Why don't I just make things better by doing this? I was more of just like a knee-jerk reaction of being like, okay, well, what if this makes things better? And then me just like taking a step back and just being like, wait a second, don't actually like walk out the door. So it was literally just like, just a knee-jerk reaction of being like, well, if you guys are so mad at me, then in a moment of weakness, thinking incredibly irrationally.
Okay, now that's good because there was some confusion over that. Some people we didn't really know what was going on there. So
Right.
glad to know that you weren't actually going to self-evict because
No.
that would have been a shame at that point. But
Yes.
regardless, you got screwed. So it wouldn't have really mattered, I guess. But
No. Yeah.
good on you
True.
for not quitting and sticking with it. To the bitter end. Taryn, any questions you have for Joel about Week 10 before we start to wind things down here?
Yeah, so I don't know again like how aware you are of what was of everything that was going on that week, but Tim was definitely from the start of the week, right off the get-go, like making a concerted effort to throw you under the bus, to make sure that Kelsey knew
Yep.
that you had been playing her. And there was a moment, I think this was on the show, where she's kind of like, "Oh, Joel is playing me. We need to like pretend that we don't know this." And
Right.
then ultimately it's Kelsey's decision. Like when you were making your campaign, when it seemed like things had flipped, it was still kind of up in the air. The brothers really didn't want to have to vote you out because they still trusted you a lot. But they were kind of taking their cues from Kelsey.
Okay. Right.
When you made that speech to everyone, and you told Kelsey that you were going to go after her the next week, what made you decide to go that route with the campaign?
That legitimately, it was just a mistake on my part to not think that after I'd given my whole campaign that they were going to ask questions and want specifics about, well, if you're HOH next week, who are you going to go after? If you're HOH and stuff like that. So it was me not really preparing for what the right thing to say was at that time. But at the same time, I knew that Kelsey, in my opinion, Kelsey was never taking me to the final two. So I was banking on the fact that maybe Tim had said on a few occasions that he was mad at Cassandra's game, and that Tim had told me in prior weeks that he felt he liked my game more because I was more of a genuine person than Cass was. So from my perspective, I was like, okay, maybe I can get 2 votes and have the brothers trust me and vote with me and vote to keep me, and maybe Tim is just too pissed off at Cassandra. I knew he was pissed off at me at that point, but I felt like in the weeks prior I'd had more of a personal relationship with Tim, where Tim respected me more as a person than he did Cassandra, that maybe he would have gone on that and wanted to take me a step further and hopefully go 2-0 at that point. I didn't think that Kelsey was going to vote to keep me in a 1-1 tie.
Interesting. Yeah. Something that the show kind of left out was that Tim was doing a lot of campaigning against you, unfortunately, and he made a treaty with a so-called treaty with Kelsey and the brothers.
Kelsey and the
Yeah, to go to the final 3 and to take out Cass the next week, which was obviously a lie on his part to take out Cass. But he definitely unfortunately played a big part in your demise. So yeah.
There you go, throwing it out there, Taryn. Giving
I kind
Joel
of
some info.
that. I mean,
Yeah, just because Jordan said that it was Kelsey and Cass, but I wanted to make sure that for the record, it
For
was
the
also
record,
Tim.
I
Yeah.
don't know, and Taryn
Yeah.
knows. So yes, it was partially
Yeah.
Cass. Kelsey made a decision, but really, okay. So we're saying Tim though was the kind of got the ball rolling with this,
Well,
Taryn.
I think it was
I
like it
think
was a culmination of events, and it was really unfortunate for you, Joel, because you were in such a great spot, and then just all these things kind of conspired against you, and then just
yeah.
like that,
Well,
that's
and
Big
I
Brother for
knew
you.
I knew that, and I think I'd said that to myself in the pantry. I think a week or two before that, I'd said to myself, you know what, I'm like that the only thing that can go wrong is that people start talking to each other. And then that week, it was me and Cass on the block, and people started talking to each other, and that's when things started to go south. But I knew Tim was a crafty person, but I legitimately I didn't think in a 1-1 tie that Kelsey would ever keep me. Just Kelsey didn't give me any sort of reassurance throughout that week or the week before that I was high up on her priority list. I thought she would maybe keep me at one point to Final Four, but I knew I was never in her final two plans. Once it got to like Final Six, Final Five or so, and I don't think, I might be wrong because I haven't seen everything, but I don't think in a 1-1 tie that even if I had said picked a different target other than Kelsey, I don't think Kelsey would have saved me in that situation. I might be wrong, but
Well, she was definitely leaning toward evicting you at that point, because there was like a long period of time where you two hadn't talked, and
yep,
Cassandra was just like in Kelsey's ear the whole time,
all the
like,
time.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna keep you, Joel's not gonna keep you,
yeah,
don't worry about me,
right.
worry about Joel,
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
and it's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, Big
Yeah.
Brother's a tough game, man. It's a tough game, but you know what,
What could
Joel?
have
I
been?
think you
Yeah.
did a great job, and you said by the pool when we talked about this, but
Oh yes.
offline. But yes, you said to Cassandra by the pool, you said to her, man, I don't want to be looked at as the what was it? Was it the letdown?
Oh
The
yeah.
the
I don't want
I
to
don't
be a
want to be looked
disappointment like
The
Jordan.
screw up or
screw
something
up.
like
Screw
that,
up.
right? I don't
Yes,
want
I
to
don't
be
want
the
to be
screw
looked
up. I
at.
don't want to be the Jordan, right? Did I say
Yeah, I don't.
your name specifically?
Yeah, he
You
said like
said
Jordan.
I don't want to be. You're just like this is what it was. It was like you're just looking and you're like. Like Cass, like I don't know, like I just don't want to be looked at as the screw up that Jordan was last year. It was just like I had like so many people tweet me and they're like, "Ooh, Joel throwing shade," and like I went back and I was actually editing a podcast while that was happening. So like I went back and watched feeds and found it and I died laughing. I thought it was so funny. But you were nowhere near that, my man. Like don't worry at all. Dude, you could have got evicted by Cindy. You could have had Cindy like cause your
True.
downfall, and you did
Yeah.
not have that happen. So trust me, you have nothing to worry about in that regard, my friend. You played a great game. You should be very proud of what you did. Fifth place is, that's a very tough thing to pull off, especially considering, you went into that house with a huge target on your back. So
I know.
kudos to you, man, and congrats on living out a dream. I know playing this
Yeah.
game meant a lot to you as it did to me when I got to live it. So it's always cool to see, a super fan go out there and really represent us very well. Before we wind things down, Joel, a couple quick things. Jury House. What was Was there anything interesting that happened in Jury? Was anybody really campaigning hard for anybody in particular, or was it kind of just like everybody's just hanging out and getting drunk like it was on BBCan 3?
Um, when I first went there, my first couple of days, it seemed like Jared seemed to be campaigning hard to try to get enemies of Kelsey to vote her away. Jared and Maddie were really, really close the first couple of days when I was in Jury House, which kind of like made me a little skeptical and like, oh, Jared's just trying to get some votes Kelsey's way. Aside from that, a few crazy arguments between Nikki, Jared, and Maddie, and and a lot of vodka drinking and things going off the rails with arguments between them, and the cattiness that you guys saw on TV throughout the season early on when girls kept getting voted off one after the other after the other. There was a lot of that the first 2 or 3 days in jury, and yeah, after that everybody kind of like calmed down and was just like, okay, we all except Raul and Jared, we were all just like, okay, just let it be Cass or Tim that makes it to the end. We don't want to have to vote for one of those people in Final Two. That was our biggest fear. Me and Mitch had talked even like the day before, and Mitch was like, Joel, who should I vote for if it's between the brothers and Kelsey? Because I don't know who to vote for. And it wasn't that we were torn. They both played like stellar games or anything. We were just like, with me and Mitch, we were just like, who didn't play as bad of a game? That was like our rationale between choosing the Final Two, if it was going to be between them. So.
Oh man, yeah, that was a tough decision. I actually thought Kelsey was going to win when I saw that was the Final Two, but you ultimately decided to vote for Nick and Phil. Why Nick and Phil over Kelsey?
Okay, so this was a really difficult decision because I think both of them got there with a lot of luck on their side. Obviously, you have to give some people credit when they make it to Final Two. It's never an easy accomplishment, no matter how you get there. But for me, neither of them really made a lot of decisions for themselves throughout the game. When the brothers were HOH, they did what everybody else wanted them to do. Every time when Kelsey started this game, she was always playing, in my opinion, for Jared and for Raul. And even when she was up on the block, I don't know that she did any campaigning for herself the week that she went home. I think Jared tried campaigning as best he could for that week, but Kelsey, I think, even said on a few occasions that she was trying hard for Raul to stay in the house. And when she came back, even in her arguments to the jury on final night, she had mentioned that Levita had given her a lot of advice on how to approach things when she gets back in. So for me, I was like, okay, well, did Kelsey at any point during this game, maybe I'll look back at it and think differently, but from my perspective, all the arguments she was making and everything I'd seen in the house, I was like, she was always having somebody else do stuff for her. She didn't really think for herself a lot of times, from what I could see in the house before she was evicted and after she came back into the house. And the brothers didn't do that much more than Kelsey, but at the same time, I felt like the brothers were a little bit better at competitions than Kelsey was, and the brothers must have done a few more things right because they only got nominated one time. How they only got nominated one time is still a bit of a mystery, but they were only nominated one time before, and I felt like they thought they were playing the game more, whereas Kelsey, I thought, was always playing the friendship thing, whereas the brothers were playing the game side of things more so than Kelsey. But it was not a very easy decision. But it honestly came down to who do you think didn't play as bad with a lot of jury members' rationale.
Yeah, I remember writing up a whole thing on Reddit or something about my thoughts, who I would vote for if those were the two in the finals, and I was basically it's what snail is the slowest? It's very difficult.
Well, and their jury management didn't help either. We were just looking at each other and just being like, okay, well, this really doesn't clarify anything more, because in our opinion, they were both their opening statements, their closing statements, and how they answered questions. We were like, okay, we still really have no clue.
Yeah, that was. We talked about this on our finale coverage, but I don't want to talk about those speeches again because I'll just get upset and frustrated. It was not good. It was not good.
What would you say was the one defining thing that, at least the biggest factor that caused the jury to vote for the brothers over Kelsey? If there's any one factor.
there's not really one that that I think you can be like, oh, well, that makes sense. They did, because there wasn't anything really that they did better than Kelsey,
Right.
but it was more so just the brothers were always like were more so thinking about it in a game and made were playing more as individuals. They weren't ever going. They had alliances and things like that, but they weren't ever playing for anybody else in the game. They always wanted themselves to win, if that makes sense. And Kelsey, I don't think from what I saw in the house was ever playing that way. He was like she was going to take Garrett to the end, so she was always playing to finish second.
All right. I've got one last question for Joel. Joel, to put a nice bow on this, and I don't think we're going to get to listener questions tonight just because we went way over time, so sorry to you guys. We won't have time for that. But Joel, last question I have for you, my friend. If you get the call, would you go back and play Big Brother Canada again?
It would be hard to turn something like that down. Obviously, I'm not going to be like some of these Survivor people who go back and like after 10 days or so are like, yeah, I'm going to go through this hell again right away. But yeah, given the opportunity, if I do get a call again, I mean, you're a super fan of this game. I'm a super fan of this game. If you're given the opportunity that like thousands of people across Canada want to, it's hard to turn something like that down. So I would definitely, I would probably say yes to it. I would not want to do it like tomorrow. I'd like some time to just like decompress a little bit still. But if I do get the call, it would be very hard to say no.
Okay, Taryn, do you have any final questions or comments for Joel before we wrap things up?
I want to tell you, Joel, how much we, at the very least, me and Jordan, Jordan especially, Jordan was in love with you the entire season. We loved watching you play. You're such a lovable guy, and you brought a lot of like great moments into the house and a great attitude and personality. So I'm really glad that you came and talked with us.
Yeah,
thank you.
Seriously.
I appreciate you guys.
Joel, yeah, seriously, man, just to piggyback on that, great job this season. Loved just your attitude, man. It was great to see somebody who is just so genuinely excited to be there and to be playing this game that we all love. So thank you for playing this season and for not giving up and for continuing to try out year after year. And thank you as well for spending over 2 hours talking to us on a live video podcast, because I know that's a lot of time.
No worries. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, Joel. Guys, for all of you watching us live, we thank you very much for sticking with us the whole way through. We need a hashtag for this one. I think the best story we got out of this entire thing was the fact that Raul is a security guard. So hashtag Raul, security guard Raul is going to be the hashtag. So if you guys could tweet us and let us know your thoughts on this episode of the RHAPpy Hour, that would be great. You can follow me. I am at Jordan Parhar. Taryn is at Armstrong Taryn. Joel is at Joel BBCan. But Joel, you've got like 2 Twitter accounts going, right?
Yeah, I've got my own personal Twitter account as well. It's just at Joel Lefevre as well. So Lefevre all together. Joel Lefevre. Yeah.
Okay, so you can follow Joel at Joel BBCan or at Joel Lefevre. Both work. And make sure you use the hashtag security guard Raul. Don't forget, we will be live this Saturday. Taryn Armstrong, and Alex Kidwell, and I, we will be taking your suggestions live as to how we can improve Big Brother Canada. It's the Big Brother Canada think tank. We're going to be on. Originally, we were going to do this on Blab, but Blab was giving us a little bit of issues last night, so we're going to do it on a Google Hangout. So we'll have the chat room going on robhasawebsite.com, and we'll be taking your tweets and everything throughout the show. So that should be a lot of fun. So if you have a suggestion as to how we can make Big Brother Canada better, and please send your suggestions in, because there is no show unless you guys send suggestions. If we get 2, then it's going to be like Alex's appearance on the Price is Right podcast last night. We're just going to hop on, we're going to say 2 things, and then we're going to say bye, and we're going to end. So please email me, send me your suggestions, parharjordan@gmail.com, or you can tweet me, use the hashtag BBCanThinkTank. I think I'll probably also probably post a little thread on Reddit as well. Reddit seems to be a good place. The Big Brother subreddit, there's lots of people with good ideas over there as well. So check that out if you haven't already started thinking about your submissions. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us. That's going to do it for this edition of the Reality TV RHAPpy Hour. We thank you for joining us. We should have some other interviews with some BBCan 4-house guests soon. I don't know, between Rob and myself. Rob's on vacation right now, but we're in the works of getting a Mitch cast going, hopefully for sometime next week. And beyond that, not too sure what we'll get, but I will see if I can work my magic. So stay tuned for that and the Big Brother Canada think tank as well. Okay, guys, for Taryn Armstrong and Joel Lefevre, I'm Jordan Parhar. #SecurityGuardRaul. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace out.